The timing was really kind of miraculous. We started Walk Kansas on March 16, and on March 17, the very next day, we were instructed to start working from home. So a lot of extension activities, events, programs had to be canceled. But we could say, well, Walk Kansas isn't canceled. It's maybe going to be a little bit different. We won't have the opportunity for face-to-face events, but certainly the opportunity to share a lot of resources and tips.
Walk Kansas, an annual K-State Research and Extension Health Initiative, ended its 8-week challenge on May 9th. This year, nearly 7,000 participants picked one of 3 challenges to compete as a 6-member team. In addition, they had access to newsletters and other information to help them improve their overall health. On today's Sound Living, an unusual Walk Kansas. Sound Living is a weekly public affairs program produced by Research and Extension at Kansas State University. I'm Jeff Wichman. K-State Research and Extension Northeast Area Family and Consumer Sciences Specialist and State Coordinator of Walk Kansas, Sharolyn Jackson, says this year was challenging because the COVID-19 pandemic hit just as Walk Kansas was starting. Sharolyn, Walk Kansas has been a statewide program dating back to 2001, and it is a program that encourages people to really get out and be active. The walking is part of it, but there are other ways to get physical activity as well.
That's right. We base the program on the physical activity guidelines for Americans, and so while walking is easy and it's something that everybody can do, and especially right now, for the last 2 months or so, people have been outside and getting a lot more walking in, and that's been great. But all kinds of activity do count as long as it's getting your heart rate up and you're working at a level we call moderate, where you can carry on a conversation but you're not able to sing. That's the goal for the type of level of intensity that we're looking for.
One of the main focuses this year was on the Power 9 traits of blue zones. I know we did this a few months ago, but I want to kind of refresh that because I think you've probably seen maybe some uptake in the numbers of people who are maybe adopting some of those principles as we go through this coronavirus pandemic.
That's right. There really are a lot of the things that can be applied and certainly I think helpful during this time. I want to just explain to our listeners what the blue zones are. There are 5 communities in the world where they found that people live predominantly longer and also healthier lives. The 5 focus communities that they've done some more intense research on are Loma Linda, California, and particularly there the Seventh-day Adventist population. In Loma Linda, they view health as central to their faith. They live almost a decade longer than other Americans do. Another one is Okinawa, Japan. One of the things that's unique in this particular area is that females over age 70 are the longest-lived population in the world. In the Nicoya Peninsula of Costa Rica, one of the strong traits there, the elders have really a very strong sense of purpose. They know why they get up in the morning, and that is believed to be a contributor to their longevity. Sardinia, Italy, and it is home to the world's longest living men. They tend to follow a very traditional, healthy lifestyle. And then Ikaria, Greece, and on the island of Ikaria, residents have half the rate of heart disease as Americans do. And what's really striking to me is they report almost no dementia on the island of Ikaria. And so those are the 5 areas that they've done a lot of study and came up with what we call the Power 9, which are the traits that are common amongst these 5 communities. And so the traits are, first of all, of course, moving naturally. That's one of the things that, of course, definitely relates to Walk Kansas. And they don't have gyms or fitness centers in those communities for the most part. People are just moving throughout their entire day. Unlike some of us, as we've been talking about, particularly during this time where we have a lot of Zoom meetings and spending a lot of time in front of our computers, their lifestyles are not like that. They're out getting activity, they're growing a lot of their own food, just getting in natural movement throughout their day.
Yeah, unless people are actually being intentional about it, I've heard that their step counts have gone down considerably working at home.
Yes, and I found that for myself. You really have to be a lot more intentional about it and plan for it. It's kind of been a surprise to me thinking that, well, I could easily just get up and take a walk, but I found that I've been busy enough working at home and trying to, I think it's just relearning a routine and trying to find a new routine. and trying to figure out how to do some things differently. So yeah, it's been kind of a stressful time. But what's different for us here in America is we have to really be intentional about it. To them, it's so a part of their life and their environment. They don't even think about it. That's just their way of life.
And along those same lines, the way they manage stress is something we could tap into right now.
Exactly. That's the next point that I was going to move right into, is that they know how to downshift to manage stress. It's not like they don't have stress in their lives. They certainly do. They just know how to shake it off, how to manage it. It's not just a one simple solution. It's a combination of a lot of things. And I think the movement is part of it, and also some of their social interactions and things. That I think all of these, what we call Power 9 traits, all work together. And in the end, that's one of the results of these traits and how they work together. Another is that they eat a plant-based diet primarily. They eat a lot more plants and less meat. In these communities, they also get a lot more beans and legumes. They have different varieties of protein sources. Part of it's just their environment and what's available, but that is another trait, is the plant-based diet. They stop eating before they're stuffed. We tend to eat until we're really, really full, or we eat faster. In a lot of these communities, they stop eating when they're 80% full or so. So they're not stuffing themselves, but they're eating a lot more plants, and these things together help to manage weight as well. And another trait that's pretty common, except for the Loma Linda community, is that they enjoy a glass of wine. We could say wine at 5. They have a glass of wine, and they are very responsible about how much alcohol they drink. It's in moderation, and often included with a meal that's shared with friends. And generally, when we say moderation, it's no more than 1 glass for women and no more than 2 for men. Some other traits are that they put their loved ones first. And in the Blue Zones, a lot of the communities there, a lot of the families there, the aging parents and grandparents live either very close by or in the home with the younger family members. The parents also invest a lot of time, energy into children with the perspective that they'll be more likely, these children will be more likely to take care of them when they're aging. And so that tends to be a part of their culture. They really incorporate and value the contributions of the older adults. Another trait is that they tend to associate with what we call a right tribe. In the Blue Zones communities, it seems that people are either born into or they choose a right tribe that supports their healthy lifestyle traits. And we've learned that lifestyle traits are contagious, both the ones that are considered healthful and the ones that are not. Even unhealthy habits such as smoking and other habits that can lead to obesity, it can be contagious. If others are practicing those habits, then you're more likely to do the same. So if they're practicing healthy habits, then you're more likely to do that as well. They also have a sense of belonging, often to a faith-based community or into a community group of some sort. Doesn't seem to matter at all what faith that they belong to, just so that they're engaged and they participate regularly. And the studies have found that this can add 4 to 14 more years to your life. And I think one of the key things in these communities is that they have a clear sense of purpose. They know why they get up in the morning. The Okinawans call it ikigai. That's their term, to know why they wake up in the morning. They have a sense of purpose throughout their life. And to think about even the older adults as they reach their 90s or even 100, they have a sense of purpose. They know why they're there.
And you had an opportunity to spotlight each one of these in the newsletters throughout the course of the 8 weeks?
That's right, we did. There were 9 newsletter issues, and so it just fell into place really easily. And one of the reasons why I think it was important and is important to look at Blue Zones communities is that we often think and just assume that we inherit our either good health or our not so good health, and that genes, we know, do determine a portion of our overall health quality, but it's only 20 to 25%. So the rest of the health quality that we have is really attributed to our lifestyle habits and into the environment where we live. So I think it's really important for people to know that they have a lot more control over that than they might think.
One of the aspects of Walk Kansas is monitoring your fruits and vegetable intake, and that probably is something that is a little bit shocking for some people when they put that into practice.
It really is. Every year, I think, since we've added that feature to the program, which was really early on. I think it was probably our second year that we offered Walk Kansas. We started having them track fruit and vegetable consumption. And it amazes me because people comment about how that's one of the more significant outcomes for them at the end of the program is when they have to write it down, they realize that they weren't eating nearly as many fruits and vegetables that they thought they would. We tend to perceive that we have a better diet than we actually do. That's just kind of a common trait.
One of the other features of the newsletters is meal planning and home recipes, and that probably came in really handy this year with so many people now cooking at home.
That's really true. We've always had a feature in the newsletter with a healthful recipe and helping people put into practice what we're recommending. But I also have to applaud our agents because they use this as an opportunity to produce more videos, add other information, share resources on healthy eating and meal planning and food preparation, meal preparation, helping to develop some of those skills that are needed to be able to prepare your own food at home. And so there are some things that I hope we can take from the experience that we're having right now. And a couple of those are wash your hands regularly, to have some food skills, some food prep skills to be able to prepare more healthy meals at home. Those would be really wonderful things that we could carry forward as a regular habit.
Well, I know that's one of the reasons why this is an 8-week program is because it helps people to form that habit. And at this point, we may see that because of the length of the work-at-home ordinance.
That's right. And people seem to be a lot more in tune with being able to use things and items that they have in their home, maybe getting a little bit more creative in how they put meals together and experimenting a little bit more. I think those are all good things, and we try to give some good basic guidance, but even aside from the Walk Kansas program, Extension has a wealth of resources on that topic. So hopefully for the listeners out there, we can be a go-to for ideas and resources on how to make healthful meals at home, learn some of those skills, prepare meals for your family, and do it in a way that's very economical and very nutritious.
I know there were some activities and events that you were not able to do this year because of the COVID-19, but this is one of those programs that was actually able to fairly well run uninterrupted.
It was, and the timing was really kind of miraculous. We started Walk Kansas on March 16, and on March 17, the very next day, we were instructed to start working from home. A lot of Extension activities, events, programs had to be canceled, but we could say, well, Walk Kansas isn't canceled. It's maybe going to be a little bit different. We won't have the opportunity for face-to-face events and classes, that type of thing. But again, our agents were really resourceful in putting a lot more of those things online and through social media, and able to do some classes and share some resources. Obviously, some things we couldn't do. And when you talk about helping people to adopt a slightly different eating style, it's really helpful that they can taste the food, even be able to prepare some. We couldn't have any of those hands-on classes. And one of the things that the number of agents had planned were a series of programs on incorporating the Mediterranean eating style. And so that's something we weren't able to do, but we've got the resources, and as soon as we have the opportunity, we'll be able to share those options again for the face-to-face learning.
And the good thing is the website is up, so if people want to either start walking or continue walking, it's easy to do, and they can go back and they can look at all of those newsletters. I think maybe even for the last 10 years they can look at newsletters.
That's right. There's 10 years' worth of newsletters on the public website, walkkansas.org. So there's a lot of good information there that has been collected over the years. The other item that would be really helpful and useful during this time is how to do different types of strengthening exercises. So if you want to try some of those things at home, a lot of times you can also just do the strengthening activities that don't require special equipment and what we call body weight exercises, and there's some of those there as well. Again, you have to be intentional about it. It doesn't just happen on its own. But we hope that those resources can give you some inspiration and some guidance.
That's Sharolyn Jackson, State Coordinator of Walk Kansas and the Northeast Area Family and Consumer Sciences Specialist. For more information, visit walkkansas.org. Sound Living is a weekly public affairs program produced by Research and Extension at Kansas State University. I'm Jeff Wichman, and this is the K-State Radio Network.